that it would be great to just share with you a little bit about my professional and academic background. So I've been at SLU for a little over 2 years. Prior to that, I worked at a college in Atlanta, Georgia, my hometown, where I was providing career services as well as counseling and disability services. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Science in journalism with a concentration in public relations and a minor in marketing from Georgia State University in Atlanta, Georgia. I have a master's of education in clinical mental health counseling from the University of Missouri, St. Louis, here in St. Louis. I'm also a nationally certified counselor with the National Board for Certified Counselors, and I am provisionally licensed as a professional counselor. I will be fully licensed 2018. And then I have nearly a decade of experience in presenting and developing workshops related to training and professional development, as well as mentoring, advising, and coaching a variety of individuals and people groups, including college students, adult learners, and young professionals like yourself. So again, I am really, really, really excited to be with you today. Just a few housekeeping things. You do not have to write down every word. My PowerPoint presentation, along with some helpful networking resources, will be emailed to you shortly after the presentation. Also, because this is a professional development workshop series and because we are officially connected through this webinar, you can consider me as one of your professional contacts. So from this point on, feel free to add me on LinkedIn. You may also email me. My email address will be provided to you at the end of the webinar. And then you can also schedule a career counseling appointment with me in our office. I will give you that information as well. Those of you that are far away, out of state, we do offer Skype appointments and phone appointments. And then the last thing is just more of a piece of advice. If you can only remember one thing from this webinar, remember it is important to have confidence in yourself and take the time to invest in yourself, because if you don't, then no one else will. So as we dive into the topic of networking, really understand the importance of appreciating yourself from the inside out. Networking involves knowing yourself and, of course, having a genuine interest in learning from others. So some of our discussion topics, I want to say, even though this is a webinar, I'm a very flexible presenter, so feel free to ask me questions throughout the presentation. If I feel that they are very tailored and specific, I may acknowledge them, but just know that you can follow up with me after the presentation, the webinar. So we're actually going to begin with branding, the ins and outs of branding 101. Then we're going to dive straight into networking, talk a little bit about what networking actually is, the definition, some benefits and trends, then go into the facts and the rules of networking, how to build your network, how to communicate your brand, i.e. utilizing your marketing message. And then we're going to talk about some unique networking scenarios that may be only applicable to some of you, but you may run into as you continue your professional development journey. We will conclude the webinar by talking about a few social media branding tips and some resources, and specifically SLUvisors, which is free and available to all of you as alum, and LinkedIn, which is, hopefully you all know, the #1 social media professional development website. So we'll go into that as well. So I thought it would be fun to jump into this presentation by doing a little interactive activity. So this would be the only time that you may want to look at the screen. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a look at the screen, look at the 2 images, and type in which image you would choose, and then why. Okay, we're seeing your responses.
Okay, most of you guys are selecting Apple, and mostly because you're either more familiar with it or it's a clearer product.
Okay, awesome. So let's do this one more time for these 2 images. You should see Coke and Pepsi. So select which one and why.
Okay, and again, most people are saying Coke for different reasons, but mostly because of the taste and that it's more iconic.
Okay, awesome. So, what do these images represent? Okay, one more question. What do all of these images represent? Apple, Samsung, Coke, and Pepsi. What are they, if you could classify them in one word?
Brands.
Okay, they are brands. Great job, everyone. So, as you guys all indicated with your responses, we all choose different brands for different reasons. Some of us choose a brand because of the emotional connection that we may have with it. Other people choose a brand because maybe we like the use of it or the way it functions. Regardless of the reason, there's some questions that we may ask ourselves before we determine if we want to invest our time, money, and resources into that brand or product. For instance, why do I want to choose this brand? Why am I going to like using it? Does it meet my expectations? Does it exceed my expectations? Would I recommend it to a friend? Answers that hopefully we will receive are, it has great quality. It does everything I ask it to do. It looks nice. It has incredible features. It's reliable. For a formal definition, just to provide you with one, a brand is a name, term, design, or other feature that distinguishes one seller's product from those of others. It's a promise of a value, and a good brand is a promise kept. It can further be characterized by its visibility, consistency, originality, and fit, which we'll talk about in a moment. But one thing you may not realize, hopefully you all do, but similar to the products that we pull off of the shelves, we all represent a personal brand. By virtue of our interactions with other people and relationships with other people, we are constantly developing an image or reputation in the minds of others that can be used to form attitudes and make decisions about us. So if you think about networking and connecting with others, we're constantly in this process of differentiating ourselves from others, standing out among the crowd. It's our added value. So it's the value of your knowledge, your skills, your experiences, and your attributes. These are all the features that may benefit a potential employer. It gives the employer a powerful and clear idea of what you have to offer. Similar to brands that we invest our time in or products that we purchase, like the iPhone or Coke, our personal brands can also be characterized by visibility, consistency, originality, and fit. So when we look at visibility, we're asking the questions, are you visible? Does your market know that you exist? Those of you, for instance, that are interested in education, does your industry know that you are interested in reaching out to them? And then once they see you, do they like what they see? Okay. Let's see. I'm getting a note that there may be some network difficulties. Can everyone still hear me? Okay, perfect. Consistency. Is your brand consistent? How you represent your brand on your resume and in your cover letter? Is it the same brand that you are representing in your networking interactions or in your interview or even on your social media account, which we'll talk about at the end of the webinar? But is your brand consistent? Original. Are you standing out among the crowd? Again, personal branding involves differentiating yourselves among others. Are you able to do that? In our next webinar, we'll be talking about resume and cover letters, but for a single job posting can get over 100 and hundreds of resumes. Are you ensuring that your resume is standing out among others? When you go to networking events and you're connecting with a ton of professionals, they're also connecting with a ton of people like you. Are you making sure that you are standing out among others? And fit, are you showing that you are a fit to that organization? Again, your brand consists of your values and your skills and your experiences and your qualifications, but are they a fit to that company? You want to make sure that you are tailoring your message, which we'll talk about later on in the webinar, so that you can show the company and that professional that you are a fit to their organization. So all in all, your personal brand consists of how you see yourself and how others see you. And I always like to, I know some of you guys have graduated a long time ago, but I like to remind you that a brand can be considered as a GPA. It's really hard to build, but it's really easy to bring down. So you want to build your brand, but you also want to take care of it so that it's not damaged. So today we're going to talk about the characteristics of being consistent, original, fit, and visible as it applies to networking. But before we dive into the topic of networking, do I have any questions about branding? There'll be other times to ask questions, but I want to touch in with you now.
Okay, we'll just give people a little bit of time to see if any questions come in.
Okay, no questions. Great. Okay, so let's dive right back into networking. What is networking? How would you define it? It could be just a few short words, a phrase, but what is your definition of networking?
Okay, we have some answers coming in. We have meeting new people, connecting with others in a professional manner, building connections with professionals, connecting with others and clarifying what you offer, also sharing industry trends.
Okay, awesome responses. I like them all. So I'm going to add to it a little bit. Networking is establishing, building, and maintaining relationships. So let's just break down that definition a little bit. With establishing, before you can have a relationship, you have to begin with introducing yourself, and that person has to introduce themselves. You have to establish that relationship. Typically, in a professional arena, when you are establishing your relationship, it's when you make that first introduction, when you're communicating your marketing message, which we'll talk about shortly. But just understanding that in order, as we all know, for a relationship such as you can even think of your best friend, for it to be called your best friend, you have to be introduced into it. You also have to build it. You have to nurture it. It has to come into form. You know, a networking relationship isn't a one-stop shop where you go up to someone, you have one networking interaction, and then you're officially contacts. You have to continue to build it. And then you also have to continue to maintain it. It's one thing to say, you know, I've been connected with this person on LinkedIn for 10 years. It's another thing to say, I actually know this person for 10 years and we've been in contact with one another. So networking is focused on relationship building. There's a strong emphasis on relationships. And we're going to continue to talk about that, how networking is getting information about that person-centered, versus asking for a job. And effective networking can also be characterized by having a genuine interest in the individual. I can tell you that people can spot a mile away when they're feeling used. So you want to make sure that you're coming from a genuine place, a very honest place, and a humble place where you're really interested in learning about that person. That will allow you to build that strong rapport, that relationship. They will begin to get to know you. Then hopefully they will get to like you, and then they will get to trust you, and then begin to refer you to opportunities or other people that could be of help with your job search or whatever it is you're looking for. And then with networking, it's an importance of a two-way networking street. So for those of you that are just now entering the workforce, or for those of you that are retransitioning into another opportunity where you're looking for a job of some sort or a paid opportunity or anything, although you are reaching out to that person to build that relationship to hopefully identify those opportunities, you have a lot to offer as well. You have, again, I can't emphasize enough, those valuable skills, those valuable experiences, knowledge, and qualifications. It's just your job to effectively communicate that to that person you are speaking with. So some benefits of networking. It's an opportunity to practice your marketing message, which again, we're going to get to. But this gives you a chance to get used to speaking with people about your skills and your interests before you have to do it in an actual interview. You know, when you clearly articulate your skills and interests and there's a connection made, your contacts can easily see how you can fit into their organization. It's an opportunity to learn from experienced professionals, you know, learning about the industry, company, career path, interests from those of you who actually work there. or from that person who actually works there. Potential to identify job opportunities. Increasing your professional connections means that you have more allies in the job search, more people who might recommend you for an open position. It also means you are more informed when you do interview because you know something more about the company. Based on what you've learned from that network. Developing interpersonal communication skills are two really great, important, transferable skills and skills that employers look for. You're building relationships and you're communicating effectively. It's the art of speaking as well as listening. And all of this increases influence on your future because, again, people are getting to know you. You're getting to know them. So you are establishing that relationship. Over time, you're going to continue to build it and maintain it. And through that, again, trust will be established and that person will be more likely to connect you to other people who could be helpful or direct opportunities. So then we're going to look at some trends. This slide is really meant to get you guys, if you don't believe, but to really understand the importance of networking. So 85% of jobs are filled via networking and a large percentage of jobs are not advertised. So it's really important that you really rely on that who you know and that you share what you have to offer. And this is because most employers would prefer to hire a person referred by a colleague, peer, or friend. So employers have done their due diligence by having their interview process and really getting to trust and understand and know that person before they hire them. So they're putting that trust back into their employees to further and strengthen their brand. So knowing that it's really about making that connection. Also, we always tell students and alum and professionals that the job search process maybe could happen overnight. Maybe some of you know someone that can instantly get you a job. But for most of us, it takes some months. It takes time. It takes persistence. It takes consistency. So knowing that if you incorporate networking, it can reduce it quite a bit. The earlier you begin networking, the better it will be. It's so much easier to network when you're not out for something specific or immediate versus waiting until, pure desperation when you really need an opportunity. And I understand that life happens, layoffs happen, unfortunate circumstances happen where you have to begin networking or start your job search immediately and you need an opportunity right away. But if you have the time, definitely start as early as possible. And it's really important to maintain your network and use it repeatedly. Okay, you want to, again, that maintenance piece is very important. You don't want to put all the work in to go to an event, to prepare, to connect with someone only to connect with them one time. So make sure you're taking the time to really build and maintain that relationship. Here are some myths. You network with the purpose of obtaining a job. No, you network with a person. To get understanding and to get information about that person. You network with a person to get information about their industry, about their career path, about their company. That job piece will come later, but the relationship piece is first. You can't contribute to a potential employer, whether you have 10 years of experience or you only have 1 or less than 1 year of experience. You do have things to offer. You just have to reflect on what those are, those skills, those qualifications, those experiences, those accomplishments that you've had. Prospective employers and professionals find networking annoying. They don't, because they understand, one, how challenging networking is, and it shows initiative. They were once in your shoes, and you're going to find more and more people who got their positions, the positions they're in now, that they got them through networking. And networking is always formal. No, networking is not always formal. In fact, it's best to start with your informal contacts, those people that you've already established a relationship with, as a referral, to use them as a referral base to connect you to maybe those people you don't know but want to know. So facts. Everybody can benefit from networking. In fact, everyone needs to network. It's how we continue to learn and grow in our careers. It's how we find out about job opportunities and build references and, again, stay up to date with industry and company information. People want to help. Again, remember that the person you are asking to meet with has been where you are. Someone helped them when they were in your position. So they want to pay it forward. And if for whatever reason they don't, they're busy or they don't want to, then you just thank them for their time and you move forward to someone else. building these relationships does take time, but it definitely will pay off. And the more you do it, I promise the easier it will get. If you feel a little uncomfortable or awkward at first, that is okay. Continue doing it. Practice makes things better. So just continue to do it until you get more confident. So before we talk about where to network, we just finished talking about the definition of networking, benefits, trends, the basics of it. Now we're going to go into how do you build your networking, your connection. But does anybody have any questions about the basics of networking, or those of you that thought more about branding? If you have any questions about that, I'll take them.
Okay, so once again, we'll take just a minute or so. If you have any questions, feel free to send them through the chat, and we will try to answer them. Okay, we have one that came in so far. Would branding and networking be different if you are doing so within your current company?
Great question. For clarification, when you're networking within your current company, or you're trying to network out while you're still employed?
Looking for opportunities within their company.
Oh, that's a really, really great question. No, I would say that it doesn't look different when you're networking within your company. You still want to make sure that you are showing the best representation of yourself. One thing to keep in mind is, depending on your office culture, do they encourage professional growth within? So understanding the protocol, is it appropriate to talk to your supervisor first? And if not, if you're doing it without them noticing, then just being very strategic in your networking. What I would recommend is identifying the departments that you may want to transition into, maybe a coworker in there or a supervisor in there, and ask for an informational interview. And you can say what company or what department you actually work in, and that maybe because your roles don't overlap, or because maybe you've noticed some projects or some initiatives that they've worked on and you want to get more information about it, and maybe asking them for coffee or just for a meeting where you can get more understanding of what they actually do, their role, the task, and any other questions that you have. So you may make it just a little more strategic and a little more structured, where you're getting to know those individuals on an individual basis.
I do have a few more. So the next, we have 3 total. So the next one would be, what are some suggestions for maintaining your network? For example, scheduling quarterly calls, or how to maintain that.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, and I'm actually going to talk a little bit about that later, but just in case I don't fully answer it, then follow up is definitely key. So for every networking interaction that you have, even if it's for 5 minutes, you want to make sure that you follow up with a thank you, with addressing whatever it was that you talked about. You could also, depending on who that person is, remind them again of your skills and your qualifications and your interest and passion, and getting to know them further. If they told you to do anything, whether that was send them your resume or do some research on XYZ topic or whatever it is, do it. And then when you follow up, mention that. Ask them if it's okay for you to continue to reach out to them as you have more questions. You also want to get into some type of a routine in following back up with your contacts. So one of the documents I'm going to send you is an Excel spreadsheet. So you can begin to keep contact of those individuals. You can keep documentation of those individuals. And maybe every handful of months, you reach out to them and just say, I was reflecting on the conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Because of what you shared, I'm now at X, Y, and Z opportunity, or I'm still looking, but I've taken X, Y, and Z into consideration. So definitely follow up is the key to maintaining the relationship. Also, as you're continuing to talk to people, after you thank them for their time and show appreciation, asking them if they know of anybody else that would be willing to talk to you about whatever it is you're looking for, because that's another way to build your relationship, and then you can go through the same maintenance process.
Okay, and we'll just take one more for right now.
Okay.
What is the most effective way to network out of state if you're looking to take a job somewhere else where possibly you don't have very many contacts?
Okay, that's a really great question. So I will talk about a couple of resources that SLU has to offer. And Amanda's actually in our alumni office, so she can jump in as well. But one of the resources that we have is SLU Visors, and I was going to mention it at the end, but I'll mention it now. It's our Alumni Advisor Network. The website is slu.evisors.com, and we will share this information with you. But it's an opportunity for you to connect with students, but also with fellow alum. So you can begin, and you can search by different locations, so you can begin to identify who am I already kind of connected to by attending SLU, who are in these cities or states that I'm interested in transitioning into. Another resource are our club cities, which you can access on our alumni website. We'll get you that information. Club cities, they're literally like clubs that have been set up by a SLU alum, and we have club cities for many, many cities out there. I can't tell you what field they're in or industry, but they're there, and they're connected with other SLU alum. So that's already one contact. And then LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a really, really great resource. There is a way for you to follow St. Louis University. Then you can see alum, and you can search by, location and industry and major that they graduated with, and different other filters. Their pictures will populate at the bottom, and then you can send them a message to connect. If you have any specific questions on how to do that with LinkedIn, you can definitely follow up with me. But those are three really great resources to begin networking out of state.
Great.
Yeah. Okay, great questions, guys. So now we're going to move into where to network as far as how to build your connection. So I have two visuals. This first one is more of a pyramid. So you can kind of consider your path or your networking path as a pyramid. So at the base are your personal informal contacts, the people you are most comfortable with. So these are definitely the individuals that you want to begin networking with. This is why they are in green for go. They include friends, peers, family, neighbors, anyone that you feel really, really close with. Whatever you do, do not rule these individuals out. Oftentimes I'll hear from students and alum, I don't want to go to my friends or my family, like I want to get this job by myself. Trust me, you still will, because you still have to interview. All they're doing is providing a referral or maybe a lead to an opportunity, but you actually have to sit in the chair, interview, and actually be offered the job. So the second tier of individuals, or the second layer, the next layer, is a group of your professional informal contacts. So they're still informal, but instead of them being personal, like the individuals in the green, they're more professional. So you have an established relationship with them, but maybe you formed the relationship in a more professional or academic manner. So instead of simply calling or texting these individuals, you would probably want to proceed with caution, i.e. the yellow, and create a plan of action. So you may have to schedule an appointment with them. You may have to send an email asking to get on their calendar, but you want to handle them with more care. So again, you have your personal informal contacts, friends, peers, family, and then you have your former or current employers or faculty or coaches, individuals that you've also established a relationship with, but just in a more professional way. And then finally, your top tier individuals, and hopefully you guys can see my theme, it's a traffic light. Those are the people who you do not know but want to know. So these are considered your formal contacts. So you want to be fully prepared before talking with them. So you want to make sure that their first impression is the best impression, because again, they don't know your brand. Do not reach out to them until you have fully researched who they are. So you will probably identify these opportunities or these individuals' career or job fairs. And we do have a career fair, career and graduates fair in September. So mark your calendars. I'll give you the official date at the end. And then also through professional associations, social media, as well as through your informal contacts. Your informal contacts are going to be a really, really great referral source to identify, again, your formal contacts. And then this is another representation. So it's really great, as I mentioned, to start from who you know and go down to who you don't know. Those of you that are a little overwhelmed by large scale events, so maybe your preference is introversion like myself, scheduling informational interviews or those one-on-one meetings where you've identified the questions that you want to ask that individual, and instead of interviewing for job, you're interviewing to get information, may be great. And I'm going to tell you, people love talking about themselves, and they love to talk about what they enjoy about their work, and sometimes what they don't like. So it's a really great opportunity to get that transparent, to have that transparent conversation. So now we're going to talk a little bit about, okay, so these are the people I need to be networking with. So how do I go about preparing for those conversations? Because again, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So for those of you that are on LinkedIn that are desperate to get 500 plus contacts or connections, slow down. That is not the purpose of it. It's to build those quality relationships. Because if you have a network of over 500 people who you don't know and don't know you, it's not going to be beneficial. So just making sure that as you're building these relationships, you're also taking time to maintain them. So the first step is to get to know you. Know who you are in relation to the world of work. So whether you are trying to transition internally at your current place of employment or in another industry, it's very important to not only know your personality, style, interests, skills, work values, but be able to apply and communicate how they are applicable to where you are trying to transition into. So if you are in, for instance, financial services, trying to transition into, let's just say, I keep using education, then you want to pull out those skills and those values and traits that those in education, those professionals in education highly value. If you are transitioning from an HR department to the marketing department, again, showcasing your creative skills, your marketing, your advertising skills, your people skills. That's going to be really, really important as you transition. So it's understanding what you have to offer, what you already have to offer, and understanding what that company wants you to provide to them. Then it's researching that industry. Okay, so it's researching you. And I should mention, if you have any questions on, okay, who am I? I've been in this role for like a decade. I don't want to be here, but I don't know where to transition. One, we will have another webinar. It'll be our third webinar called Retransitioning and Career Exploration. But you are also free to schedule an appointment with any one of our career development specialists, including myself. We have assessments for these areas. We also just love hearing your story and can provide, talk therapy and more insight on maybe what are some of your personality preferences, interests, and skills. So just know we are here to help with that. We are also here to help with that industry information. So it's your job to actually research, but if you want some more research resources, definitely reach out to us. But the Occupational Outlook Handbook and ONET are great. You can actually just do a general search for each of those resources, but it gives you a lot of career-related specific information, job outlook, salary information, work environment, to get an idea of what are the trends of my field. Company websites, looking at their blogs, have they been in their media, and then joining professional associations. So depending on what your field is, seeing if there is a professional association for that, that's a great opportunity for you to learn more about the field and other people within it. Then before you actually begin networking, you want to have some goals in mind. You do not want to go into a networking conversation blindly. You don't want to go in with something memorized, but you want to be you want to have practice, and you want to be confident. So, identifying your goals. Is it to uncover career path information? Great. Communicate that. Is it to uncover company information? Great. Internship, job opportunities is great as well. But again, you want information of those opportunities. You don't want to ask for them directly. But maybe there are some opportunities on their website and you're interested in understanding marketable skills or communicating how you fit for those roles. But again, you don't want to directly say, I need a job or give me a job. And then possible questions. So another resource that I'm going to make sure is emailed to you is a list of questions that you could possibly ask your networking contact. And all of those steps are really important to take before you actually connect with the person. And you want it to be very tailored. So again, remember, so it's a process. So remember, it's a process. It will take time. You're thinking, okay, the interaction itself is just that's a lot to handle, and now I have to go through all of this, but it will pay off in the end, and it'll show your genuine interest in getting to know them. So then when you actually get to that person and you're starting to establish that relationship, you're doing so through what I mentioned, a marketing message or an elevator pitch or a marketing pitch or a marketing message. So what you're doing is you're communicating, you're utilizing your verbal communication and of course your nonverbal communication, those of you that are communicating face to face with someone. You can also communicate your marketing message in written format. So if you were sending a message via LinkedIn or email, SLU visors will walk you through on setting that appointment with someone, setting that appointment with other alum. So I don't know if I mentioned it, but with SLU visors, the way that you can connect with alum is to actually have a career conversation with them on the phone to learn more about who they are and what they do. So to schedule that appointment, the platform will walk you through scheduling it, but one of the questions is, what is your purpose for connecting or reaching out or talking to this person? You're going to communicate your marketing message. So it's a short blurb of who you are, your related skills, not all of your skills, but related skills, areas of expertise, personal characteristics, or any area about yourself that's going to make you extremely marketable to that person. If you are talking to someone face to face, being mindful of that nonverbal communication. So your body language, your eye contact, firm handshake, your behavior at a networking event. And mind you, even if you are going to a networking event or career fair, I always tell people that even if you're not in the actual room with your networking contacts, knowing that you could pass them in the hallway or on the elevator. So just making sure that you show you're there for a purpose and you're showing you're wearing your professional hat. Also knowing, as far as the delivery, marketing message, it can be formal where someone asks you, tell me about yourself, like they do in an interview, and then you give them a tailored message of your skills and characteristics, but it can also be very conversational. So maybe you introduce yourself and then you give your title or maybe some professional fields that you may be in or looking for, and then they ask you more about that, and then you share a little more, and then they ask you more about that, and then maybe you ask them some questions. So it can be very conversational as well. But essentially, it's your one opportunity to sell yourself and make that person interested in who you are. So it's not your life story and it's not your overall professional story. It's those tailored experiences. So then the way it breaks down is, again, who you are, your professional title or your identifier. So if you're not working, how would you identify your professional brand? Where you have been, a very concise career history. So if you are trying to transition into, let's just say healthcare, talking about experiences that have nothing to do with healthcare, even though you've done them, maybe aren't as important as your healthcare experience. Okay, so identifying, and even if the experience itself, so even if you worked in retail management, for instance, for many years, even if the experience itself doesn't relate, pulling from those skills that you demonstrated that can be applicable to nursing is definitely a great opportunity to share. What you're best at, why you're currently in the market, your reason for leaving. Be very careful about being completely honest and transparent with those individuals because you don't know how they're connected to your current or former employer. So you can keep it very general. You can say something like, that company, I learned so much from them. You can tell them what you learned, but I'm very interested in transitioning into an environment, maybe working for a larger company or a smaller company or a nonprofit or corporate situation. So you just want to keep it very general. And then what you're looking for from that person. So those are your goals and reasons. So my recommendation is looking at someone's LinkedIn profile can be very, very helpful. Again, if you need help setting up your LinkedIn, you can definitely email me. But you can identify those people on LinkedIn, go to their page and look at their career path and use that as a basis of identifying some questions to ask them. But these are just things to consider as you are preparing to have your first conversation with your networking contacts. And so then here is just the overall process. You want to prepare for those conversations. So doing research, as I mentioned, searching for them on LinkedIn, SLU visors. You want to then decide what it is that you really want to know about that person, their job experience, or their company. So try to make it as specific as possible. Then you want to ask for that meeting. So after you've practiced your request or reviewed your email, you want to make sure your request, has the purpose. So I want to learn more about marketing in your industry, or I want to learn about your field. And then when you meet, you want to be professional. You want to dress professionally. So maybe you're meeting, in the evening or during a time where wearing a suit is not appropriate or it's not necessary. That's fine. But business casual, you can never go wrong. And it's okay if you are dressed, and this applies to interviewing, which we'll have another webinar on. It's okay if you are dressed more professionally than your interviewer, because again, you are trying to connect with that person or interview within that company. They're already in that company, and it shows initiative and it shows how serious you are to connect with them. And then the most important step that you can take is to follow up. Especially if you're going to those large scale networking events where that person is meeting so many people, that is how you will stand out. So following up within 24 to 48 hours, that also goes back to the question of how do you maintain your connections? Follow up. Ask if it's okay to follow up in the future with additional questions. Keep track of who you meet with, where they work, and what they recommended you for. If you apply for a job where one of your contacts works, you can reach out to them later and ask for information. But keep in mind that a personal referral is still the number one way of getting hired. And we're going to conclude the networking piece before social media by just briefly talking about those unique networking scenarios, and I'm going to provide you some unique networking strategies. So again, this may not apply to all of you now, but it may one day. So networking for unexperienced graduates. So I am considering an unexperienced graduate as someone who has never had any job, part-time, full-time, internship. Networking may be a little bit of a challenge. It is not impossible. So breathe. You probably know more people than you think. Second, you want to start again with those people that you know. Place a large emphasis on your informal contacts. While you are connecting with your personal informal contacts, slowly move on to the yellow area contacts, your professional informal contacts. So faculty, individuals that knew you in the classroom, or mentors or advisors, or individuals that again know you on more of a professional or academic manner, in an academic manner. Your marketing message would be very helpful, especially for your professional informal contacts. But then think about how can you get more experience, because experience will get you more experience. So consider volunteering or consider an internship, unpaid or paid. I will say that getting an unpaid internship or reaching out to an organization and maybe even asking if you can create your own internship, you never know what opportunity will present itself. So just be mindful of you need to get that experience. So getting involved in your community, job shadowing, but also relying on your informal contacts. I touched on this a little bit, but networking as an introvert or networking as someone who just talking with a lot of people or meeting a lot of people can be very overwhelming. Two strategies. One, thinking about providing structure around your networking. So setting a daily or weekly networking goal. So if you decide that you're only going to network with 5 people that week, when you meet your goal, you've met your goal. Setting a goal when you go to an event. Okay, this event is large in scale. Awesome. Or this event is large in scale, so I'm only going to make sure I talk to 5 people and then I'll feel successful. So adding some structure around that process. And then again, utilizing informational interviews, because it's typically you and one other person in the room, so it's not as loud and it doesn't have as much activity around. Networking while still employed. So those of you that are currently employed but are seeking to transition out of your place of employment, it is still possible, but you want to proceed with caution. It will be very important for you to also rely on your informal contacts, the people that you know and trust. You want to make sure that you are marketing your brand effectively, but you also want to balance that with your commitment to that employer. You do not want your current supervisor to know that you are looking until you are ready to let them know. You also want to stay clear of those companies that your current place of employment has a connection with. Even if they are high profilers in the industry, you may want to think about how can I market myself so that they will reach out to me versus me reaching out to them. So thinking how you can be visible to them, that characteristic of a brand. And as far as LinkedIn, you may want to explore your privacy settings so that when you make updates to your LinkedIn profile, your current contacts or connections won't see it unless they go to your profile. So just adjust your profile settings accordingly, your privacy settings accordingly. So some overall rules really briefly. You want to do it. People hire people that they know and trust. Be prepared. Have a plan. Do not go into it blindly. You're asking for information, not a job. Never assume that someone cannot help you, even your informal contacts. You know, I also hear, well, I've known this person for years. She's my best friend, or these are my parents. They would tell me if they knew of someone. Maybe you're not asking the specific question. So don't rule anyone out. Stay positive. Self-care is really, really important during this process and during the job search. You know, we tell people that the job search, you want to treat it like a full-time job, but just remind yourself, even at full-time jobs, you have breaks and you have lunch. So you just want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you can stay positive. Listen more than you speak. It's a conversation. You're communicating. You're not just talking. Follow up, do what they tell you to do, and remember that you represent the person that recommended you or referred you. So now it's balancing and managing your brand with that other person's brand. And then the last bit, it's just on social media because I want to get to these final questions. But this is just a reminder of, you know, your brand, the consistency piece and the visibility piece. You know, your brand should be consistent across social, across your resume and your cover letter and in networking as well as in interviewing, but also on your social media. It is really, really bad to nail an interview, to nail a networking contact, to only have your offer taken back because they saw something inappropriate on your Facebook profile or your LinkedIn profile. So you want to be very mindful of what you post. You also want to be very mindful of the company that you keep. So you may want to, you know, identify and determine if you want these people as connections. Even though these are personal networking sites, with the exception of LinkedIn and Sluvisors, you still want to make sure they're representing your brand accordingly. As far as LinkedIn and Sluvisors, I cannot say this enough, but just make sure you create a profile on both. With Sluvisors, I believe you can sign up with your LinkedIn, so it makes it very easy on your end. So students can connect with you to get advice from you, so you can get an idea of what it feels like on the other end, but then you guys can also connect with each other and develop professional relationships. LinkedIn, I can't say it enough, it's the largest professional networking site. We have a SLU alumni group. You can also connect and contact SLU alum individually. So definitely get on those sites as well. And then these are just some tips. Again, I'm not going to go through them, but just making sure that you are managing your brand and maintaining it on social media, because once it's out there, there's a high possibility that it will always be there. Someone will always be able to find it. And then just remember, you know, be yourself, show your confidence, start with who you know. Take this process very, very seriously. Maintain your connection. It's about establishing the relationship, then building it, and then maintaining it. Reassess your brand consistently. So just asking your close loved ones, you know, how do they view you every so often to make sure your brand is still effective. And then I'm going to leave you with this quote before I open it up to questions. Your network is the people who want to help you and you want to help them, and that's really powerful. So just keep in mind that people want to help, people want to get to know you. You just have to make that connection. Thank you.
Okay, so once again, we'll just open it up for final questions for the next few minutes or so. So feel free to start sending those in and we will get to as many as possible. So I just am going to read some of them as they're coming in. What is the best way to network if you are not on social media?
Well, that is a really great question. I will start with challenging you to at least get on LinkedIn and Sluvisors if you don't get on the other personal social media sites, because again, LinkedIn is our largest professional networking site and Sluvisors is very specific to you, SLU alum. But again, starting with who you know, making yourself visible to your industry. So again, identifying networking events. So I guess I can tell you guys now, it's on our last slide, but our fall career and graduate school fair is September 27th from 12 to 4 in the Wool Ballroom. So that's another opportunity to network. The best advice I ever got from my professor in college was just show up. So identify as many events where you'll surround yourself with like-minded individuals and begin networking that way. As far as identifying, yeah, who you may not know without social media, yes, starting with your informal contacts, going to those events, um, and yeah, again, joining maybe different professional associations.
Okay, so the next one we have is just for the follow-up process. So once you reach out to someone, when should you reach back out if you have a contact?
Okay, so if you reach out to someone, ideally they will respond. If they do not, um, what I would do is I would give them a little time. 2 weeks is pretty average because maybe they're out of the office. If they're out of the office, hopefully they'll have an out of the office message. But if they don't and your email just somehow got to the bottom of their inbox, just give them a couple of weeks and then reach back out and you can acknowledge that they may be busy, acknowledge the message that you sent before, and then maybe you can re-ask your question, um, or maybe ask them for a list of availability for you guys to talk in person. Maybe it's difficult for them to email back and forth, but you can definitely follow up within an appropriate time frame, that 2 to 3 week mark, and then just acknowledging that they may be busy. You already followed up and try again. If for whatever reason they don't follow up after that, then you'll have to make a judgment call. If this was someone that you felt was really motivated to get to know you, then maybe wait a little more longer and follow back up, or you can decide to just take a break and move forward. But it could just be that that person is very busy.
Great. So that seems to be all of our questions. So we can move on to our personal information slides and additional information now.
Okay, perfect. And in addition to, I'm just going to add one thing. In addition to following up for thank you updates, so after you've gotten whatever you're looking for, let's just say it's a job, following back up with those individuals that helped you get there, even if it was they connected you with another person who connected you with another person who connected you to the opportunity, following up with that first person, just saying, thank you so much for your time. Because of the insight you gave, I'm at this position and I'm very happy. And then while you're still there, following up and updating them, because you'll probably need them again, but at least you're not coming to them and reaching out to them every time you need something. So again, maintaining that relationship even when you don't need something immediately. So here, let's see. Ooh, there we go. So contact information. Feel free to email me. Again, I'm Jordan. My email address is wadij@slu.edu. If you want to, I'm one of 6 career development specialists. We are all awesome and eager to meet all of you. So if you want to make an appointment through our office, our number is on the slide as well as our website. Handshake, which will be briefly discussed in our upcoming webinar, is our online job system where you can go and apply for full-time, part-time internships. And all of these employers on Handshake have an interest in SLU students, so it's more specific than Indeed or some of those general job search engines. And then our fall career and graduate school fair, September 27th, 12 to 4 p.m. And then on the right side of the screen shows you our additional services: resume, cover letter writing, mock interviews, interviewing tips, job and internship searches, LinkedIn help. Even if you want to just develop a networking and job search strategy, we can talk together. Okay? So thank you again. I really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jordan. And the following slide is my information. If you or another SLU alum that you know would be interested in being a future presenter, we're always looking for more alumni presenters that could speak on some type of professional development topic. So feel free to email me if you are interested. And also on our website, there are a list of different alumni professional development opportunities. So feel free to visit that as well. And in addition, here are the upcoming webinars that we have. We have resume and cover letters next Wednesday, same time, same place, July 19th. And then we also have career exploration and retransitioning on August 9th and interviewing 101 on August 23rd. These are all on Wednesdays, all from 11:30 to 12:30 Central Time. So we hope you can attend those. Also, just so everyone knows, after the presentation today, you will be receiving a follow-up email that contains a survey. So if you have the opportunity, please feel free to fill that out so we could have additional information on ways to improve our webinar process. This is a new program for us, so we're always looking for feedback. In addition, in regards to the slides and any other handouts that Jordan has and some other links that we discussed in the presentation today, I will be sending out an email to all of you by the end of the week. So by Friday, you will have all of that information as well as the link to this webinar that will be housed on our SLU YouTube page. So thanks everyone for coming and attending. We hope you enjoyed this webinar, and thank you, Jordan, for being our presenter. And we hope you have a wonderful day, and we hope you can join us for our next webinar. Thank you.